Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our board. Welcome to our new board members for first meeting of the year. This is our organizational meeting. And at this meeting, which is required by New York State Education Department Commissioners Regulations, we do a number of different things to get the year started off. Some official appointments, including the nomination and appointment of our new board officers. So I preside at the beginning of the meeting and then gladly hand over the gavel to the board president when the board president is elected. So I'm going to proceed by calling the attendance. I see that Mr. Buno is here, Mr. Mann is here, Mr. O'Brien is here, Ms. Phillips is here, Mr. Skomurski, Ms. Steinbeck, Mr. Temple, Ms. Turner, and Mrs. Van Orden. So everyone is present for our first meeting. That's great. Before I proceed with the Pledge of Allegiance, I just want to acknowledge Jean Pangburn and my secretary, Stephanie Reamer, for our new student-centered boardroom. We selected artwork from the district's annual art show, and we've sent a letter on behalf of the board congratulating our students whose artwork was selected for the boardroom. They've also done some decals on the windows, and we have the father of our country behind me, so if I goof up in front of George Washington, I might be a little bit embarrassed, but they did a terrific job and a good way to start the new year, and I appreciate Jean and Stephanie's efforts. So with that, I'd ask everybody to stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to call our board clerk, Jean Pangburn, forward to administer the oath of office to myself, as well as our newly elected board members.
Do you, Jeffrey, solemnly affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of superintendent according to the best of your ability?
I will.
Do you, Kimberly Turner, solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of a Board of Education member according to the best of your ability? Do you, Samantha Phillips, solemnly affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of a Board of Education member according to the best of your ability? I will. Yeah. Do you, Catherine Van Orden, solemnly affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of a Board of Education member according to the best of your ability?
I will.
Okay, I want to congratulate each of our new board members, Kim Turner, Samantha Phillips, and Catherine Van Orden. You are now officially sworn in as members of our Board of Education, and welcome. We look forward to working with each and every one of you. At this time, we're going to ask all board members to review our board policy 2165, which is a requirement that we have in our policy that school board members understand a code of conduct. That code of conduct is based on best practices as represented by the New York State School Boards Association. It outlines various responsibilities of the board members to be participating in required training and also in service. It speaks to the importance of recognizing that as individuals, you serve with a corporate body, which is the Board of Education, and we make decisions as a board. also delineate some of your roles and responsibilities. So I would ask if everyone could just review that, take a minute to sign that and turn that into Jean. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Who's clicking?
Hearing and seeing no questions, we'll just make sure that everyone turns the code of conduct into Jean. Our next agreement for our board is very similar, actually identical to the acceptable use agreement that we ask our students and our employees to be mindful of and to sign. This relates to the use of the district's network for district purposes. And as a board member, you have access to the district's email system and other features of the network, Google accounts, as well as hardware, which is the Chromebooks that you're issued for conducting business as a board member. There are stipulations in the policy that just make sure that we're using it for the purpose for which it is intended. Had any issues, and it's just a formality. I ask everybody, I think, could just review that and sign that as well. Okay, at this time, I'd like to start the process of calling for nominations for board officers. I'm asking for a nomination for Board of Education President. Is there a nomination?
So before I do a nomination, I'd just like to say a couple of things. It's a time of transition for this board. There's new board members. Change is always constant, right? So for the last 8 years, I've served as board president with my colleague, Mark Mann, as vice president. And I appreciate the board support and all the work that we've done over these past several years. So this year I will not be a candidate for the board president, and I wholeheartedly in support the nomination of Jesse Temple as board president for the East Greenbush Central School District. So I want to nominate Mr. Temple for the role of board president.
So Mr. Buno has nominated Mr. Temple for board president. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Mann is seconding it. Are there any other nominations for board president at this time? Seeing and hearing none, I will ask for a vote. We can do it by ayes and nays. All in favor of Jesse Temple being board president? Ayes. Any nays? Seeing none, Mr. Temple, I gladly turn the gavel over. I want to also thank Mr. Buno and Mr. Mann for their services as president and vice president over the last several years. Appreciate working with them. And I congratulate Mr. Temple on his new role as board president. Congratulations, Jesse. Let's give Mr. Temple a chance to get settled. So we'll do the swearing in of Mr. Temple as board president, and then Mr. Temple will take us through the nomination of the other officers.
Okay. Do you, Jesse Temple, solemnly affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of Board of Education President according to the best of your ability?
I will.
Congratulations. Meeting is yours, and if you need any help, I'm here for you.
I do want to thank you, Mr. Bruno, for the nomination and for all of your service. And I really hope to just build on, the history that we have here. We have a lot of great successes to build on, from the Capitol project, seeing the voter turnout and the history, from where we're coming from. I think history is important, and steadily moving into the future. and finding ways to innovate and change. And I want to say thank you to all my board colleagues for voting for me and having that vote of confidence. And I look forward to doing my best to really bring us all together. It's really not about me as an individual. It's really about us. What can we do? That how can we elevate all of our voices? That with power we speak with one voice. And so, if there's anything I would say, that's kind of my vision is how to do exactly that, moving into the future. And I also want to thank Mr. Simons. Your leadership has been instrumental in my first year as a board member, and seeing your experience in the work that's being put in. Really seeing the work of everyone. When you first come, you have a lot of thoughts, and wants. I think just seeing the steady leadership and how things work and finding how to best impact the process has been invaluable to me. And I just look forward to continuing that process and building on that. So thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Look forward to working with you.
Absolutely. Okay. So next is going to be the appointment of a vice president.
That's right.
Vice president. I would ask. Yes.
No, I want to speak.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yes.
So on the same lines of Mike, I've been the vice president for a couple years prior to Mike taking over the presidency, and I do agree that change is necessary to move forward and stuff like that. So I will not be seeking the vice president position again this year. I'm going to serve my last 2 years on this board as a board member, as I will not be running again. But I do want to, again, thank everybody and welcome our new board members. Look forward to working with everybody. And if she'll have it, I would like to nominate Emily to be vice president for the Board of Education.
Excellent. Is there any other nominations for vice president? And do we have a second? All right, Michelle, Ms. Komersky, excellent. Okay, cool.
So there's been a second.
Yes.
And so did anybody want to make any other nominations? I didn't think so. So we can just go forward with a call of a vote.
Excellent. Excellent. Awesome. All right. So voting for Vice President, Ms. Steinbeck,
All in favor?
all in favor?
All right.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I'll just say something very quickly. Thank you all. And I want to specifically say, thank you to Mark and Mike. I feel like your leadership coming on has been really great to, witness and to see for the district. This district is such a strong one. And I think it's, the board has a huge part in that. And I'm very honored to be on the board and to take this leadership role. And I'm confident that my skills throughout my professional career will lend itself to this position and supporting Jesse and really the district and in all we want to achieve and go forward. So thank you again. And, Mark, I will now refer to you as a special advisor. So, watch out for those texts and calls.
Anytime.
All right, excellent. Congrats.
Sure.
Do you, Emily Steinbeck, solemnly affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of Board of Education Vice President according to the best of your ability?
I will.
Okay, and next for nominations, do we have a nomination for assistant clerk?
It was.
Cheryl.
Yeah.
That was Cheryl Kennedy.
So
I will volunteer
Okay, yes,
if
I was gonna-
someone is.
I'll nominate Mr. Buno. Yes.
I'll second it.
Wait, is any other nomination?
Yes.
No, we're good.
You're good?
So
I second it. Yeah.
awesome. So voting for Mr. Buno to be the assistant clerk. Yays.
Yeah.
Okay. No no's, no abstains. Congratulations, Mr. Buno.
Do you, Michael solemnly affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of Board of Education Assistant Clerk according to the best of your ability?
I will.
All right, and moving on to nomination of deputy treasurer. Any nominations for deputy treasurer? I'll nominate Michelle. Okay.
You can sign checks.
Any seconds?
Second.
All right. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Jeff. And voting for deputy treasurer. Yeah, yays.
Just don't all leave me hanging and have to do a board
Yes.
meeting. Okay?
Yes.
Try.
That was rough.
Do you, Michelle Skamersky, solemnly affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of Board of Education Deputy Treasurer according to the best of your ability?
I do. Thank you.
Congratulations, Michelle. Okay. All right. And moving on to the appointments of the Board of Education and approval of district stipends. This is a boilerplate vote here. Is there any questions on the appointments for the district stipends?
We do this annually. It generally is offices that are required either by New York State or federal regulations. In some cases, individuals receive a stipend. Other cases, it's part of their job duties. And in some cases, the positions are not required by state and federal, but have been historically in the district, either through a contracted arrangement, such as with our various bargaining units. Annually, we review these and we ask the board to reapprove them. So if there are any specific questions about any of them, I certainly would, am able to answer them now. If there are no questions, let's go forward and we approve them.
Make a motion. to approve.
Excellent. Is there a second? All right. Thanks, Michelle. Okay. Is everyone in favor? Is it yays? Okay, excellent. Everybody. All right. Okay, moving on to a resolution to approve the appointment of impartial hearing officers for the Committee of Special Education for the 2024-2025 as provided by the New York State Education Department's hearing reporting system. Are there any questions on?
I'll just give a brief overview. Dr. Pennick is here. Dr. Catherine Pennick is our Director of Pupil Personnel Services, and she oversees the Committee on Special Education and Process, as well as the Committee on Preschool Education. At times, we haven't had any situations here. The Committee on Special Education makes a determination that a parent or a caregiver may disagree with. We typically try to resolve that through continued discussion of the child's program and individual education plan. But if there is a dispute that needs to be resolved, these individuals are available through the state, Mark. They are state-appointed officers that, and there's a list, there used to be a list that they would issue to the districts. Now it's an electronic database. So you're basically authorizing the district, should we have one of these situations in special education, to appoint an impartial hearing officer from a state list. Typically, we are able to resolve these situations. Sometimes there's just more discussion that is required and more collaboration between the parent and the Committee on Special Education. Dr. Pennick, anything to add?
Nope, I think you handled it very well.
Do anyone want to make a motion to approve this? All right, thanks, Ms. O'Brien. Is there a second? All right, Mr. Mann. Yays? Excellent. Seeing them. Yep, excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on here to committees on preschool and special education. Here is a resolution to approve the appointment to committees on preschool and special education for the 2024-2025 school year. Are there any questions on this motion? And is there a motion to approve? All right, Michelle, is there a second? Ms. O'Brien? And I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my wits here up here. Comfortable. Okay, is the votes for the yay? Okay, everyone, excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to appointment of election for workers for the district vote for the upcoming 2024-2025 school year. Are there any questions on this motion?
Just a comment.
Go ahead,
I just
Mr.
want to thank all the folks who volunteer and get paid for this role, and it's a really important part of our election process and do a great job.
Thank you, Mike. The only thing I was going to add was at times people withdraw during the year, or at times we realize that we might need some more individuals to do this. So there may be situations later in the year where we ask you to appoint additional poll inspectors or election workers, but typically this is like the main group.
Awesome, thank you.
Make a motion.
Mr. Buno for the motion to approve. Is there a second? Ms. Turner, yays? Everyone's a yay. Excellent. Thank you very much. And this is the designations for the official depository for district funds, the official district newspaper, daytime regular board of education meetings, rate of mileage reimbursement, prices for school meals and athletic admissions. Is there any questions on this motion?
I have a question on the
Yes.
school meals. There's a note for pricing of additional meals. What is an additional meal? What does that mean?
So at times, there could be a student who wants to purchase a second.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And it's allowed, so it's, is breakfast not offered for middle school second meal, or is it?
Let's see. I believe that might be a typo. I think all meals are available as second meals.
Okay.
It's listed.
Yeah, it might be just an error.
Yeah, no, that's fine. The additional meals.
That's a good
I wasn't
question.
sure.
Yeah, that's a
The-
good question.
Just for the public's benefit, we did announce that we qualified for all of our schools, including our pre-K sites, with the exception of Holy Spirit, which we do serve meals on contract with Holy Spirit. So the resolution is a little different this year. It says in the event that, you know, that approval stays in place, we are going to be free for everyone in all the buildings, and then if they purchase a second meal. would be the normal charges.
And I just want to thank all the work that went into that. That is such a big win for our district, and we're very appreciative of all the work to prove that.
Absolutely. Well, that would be Colleen,
Yes.
who did a terrific job, who's our school lunch manager, and Jennifer.
Yeah, it's been very well received by the community.
So there would need to be just a correction on the school breakfast to say grades 6 through 12 for the additional meal for the breakfast.
Yeah, so if somebody could make a motion to amend this attachment to include grades 6 through 12 within the pricing of additional meals.
Mr. Mann, Ms. Komersky, excellent.
So the minutes will reflect the change.
And now vote on the,
Yes,
Okay,
I gotta vote on that.
vote on everything, okay. Is everyone,
I have a question on the athletic admission rates
Mhm.
before we approve it. I see that students cost $1 to attend. In the instance where a student doesn't have $1, are they turned away?
No, we make an arrangement.
Mhm.
And this is an issue that we're studying for next year.
Mhm.
Some districts have moved away from charging people for attending athletic events. We wanted to do a little bit more historical review of the revenues before we made that determination. But I know, for example, some of the suburban council schools are no longer charging. Some are still doing that. So, yeah, we would never deny admission of a student for financial reasons. But it's something that we're looking at, weighing the revenue that we get from the admissions versus the, the logistics in terms of the cost and what it might do in terms of promoting our spectators to come to our game. So we're looking at it maybe for a different kind of recommendation for next year.
Okay, great, thank you.
There are like family passes as well, right?
Right.
That
Mhm.
if you have a large number of people in your family can attend, so.
Yes.
all right, the votes for a yay? I see no, excellent, thank you very much. Motion passed.
Was there a motion and a second to that?
Oh, we did the
Right.
change and then we didn't do the
So
motion.
Okay.
go back and we have
Yes.
a motion and
Okay.
a second on that one.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to.
Second.
Versus Bennett.
All right, Mr. Mann and Mr. Buno, thank
for
you,
the
thank you,
designation.
thank you, Mr. Mann, Mr. Buno. All right, excellent.
We need to vote.
We need to vote on
Thank
it.
you, okay, yep, all in favor. Thank Okay, moving on to the amendments to the resolution to appoint Mr. Simons as the East Greenbush Central School District Chief Emergency Officer for the 2024-2025 school year. Is there any questions on this motion? And I need a motion to approve or a motion. Do anyone want to? I'm sorry.
Is there a raise with this position?
Not with this specific. It's just a motion to approve.
A motion to approve, okay. Is there a motion? Okay, Mr. Buno, and a second, Ms. O'Brien. And voting for yay?
Yay.
All right, me too. All right, excellent. Motion approved. And moving on here to the authorizations. This is to resolution to approve and accept the authorizations for the 2024-2025 school year. Is there any questions on the authorizations? And is there a motion to approve? Ms. Komersky, is there a second? Ms. O'Brien, and voting for yays. All right, motion approved. All right. Moving on to the resolution to readopt the district policy manual for the 2024-2025 school year. That this authorizes and readopts the district policy developed in conjunction with the New York State School Boards Association and the school attorney for the 2024-2025 school year, and new and revised policies during the year in accordance with policy number 2410, policy development, adoption, implementation, and review. Are there any questions on this motion? Is there a motion to approve this motion? Mrs. Turner? And is there a motion? Is there a second? Ms. O'Brien? Is voting on the yay. All right, motion approved. And moving on to the review of the district policies on investments and purchasing and parental involvement. This resolution is to adopt the district policies on investment, purchasing, and parental involvement for the 2024-2025 school year with changes as presented. If you have any questions on one of the items in the attachment, any questions on that?
These are required to be annually reviewed and approved separately from the policy manual. There have been no recommended changes from the New York State School Boards Association. We subscribe to their policy service, so they review all of our policies and recommend changes. At some point, we can show you at a meeting, you can access those policy recommendations right through board docs under the policy tab. New York State School Boards provides us with updates. So these policies are annually required to be reviewed.
Is there a motion to approve? Okay, Mrs. Turner. Is there a second? Mr. Buno? All the yays? Excellent. Motion approved. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Okay, the Medicaid compliance program is another annual requirement. As part of
Jeff, can you just give a little background on that?
Sure.
First, please?
The school districts are eligible to receive Medicaid reimbursement for certain kinds of services that are generally provided in special education, such as occupational therapy, speech therapy, physical therapy, in some cases, counseling. Those related services require a lot of documentation and submission of our district to provide the backup necessary to have the approval reimbursed to the district. Medicaid revenues past year are estimated to be about $378,000. It is identified in our budget as a revenue stream, but these are for services that are provided and reimbursable through documentation of the district. We have a compliance program. Our compliance officer is Dr. Catherine Pennick, and later on in the school year, she'll be coming forward and doing a presentation, which is required a training for the board on the Medicaid compliance program. It's usually a short presentation, but it's an annual requirement.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome.
Is there a motion to approve this motion? All right, Mr. Mann, and is there a second? Mrs. Steinbeck, and is voting up for the yay? All right, excellent. Motion approved. Moving on for the motion, the resolution to adopt the procedures for post-issuance compliance with federal and with federal tax law.
This was a new requirement last year. This is our second year approving this. If you don't mind, I'm going to ask Jennifer Mulligan to explain why we do this.
Thank you, Mr. Simons. The district issues debt, which is a tax exempt borrowings. And for the investors to for us to maintain that tax exempt status, we have certain procedures that we have to go through to maintain that, because the investors are getting the benefit of investing, in our particular debt. So these are just requirements that we need to maintain, that with the federal tax law.
Thank you, Ms. Mulligan. Okay, is there a motion to approve this vote? Mrs. O'Brien, is there a second? Mrs. Turner, and all in favor? All right, excellent, motion approved. Okay, and moving on to interscholastic athletic rates. This is a resolution where the Board of the East Greenbush Central School District accepts and approves the 2024-25 interscholastic athletic rates. Are there any questions on this motion?
Who typically are the folks fulfilling these roles?
Some of them are safety supervisors, some of them are senior monitors, some of them are coaches that do this kind of work at the games.
So
So
we're all-
supervisors can be senior monitors, they can be school safety supervisors, ticket sellers, same types of individuals.
So are they all, generally speaking, are they all staff of the district?
Yes.
Or, okay, so there
Generally,
are no
or in some cases,
volunteers?
there might be retired staff that is involved on a limited basis, but they're generally employees.
Okay, I would just ask that if they're not a formal employee, that they follow all the same trainings and the code of conduct and all the things that we require if they're not already doing that.
I can't think of an individual that isn't a
When
current
you're-
employee.
Okay,
right now.
cool. Thank you.
Other than, occasionally.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to approve? I'm sorry, Mrs. Komersky, and is there a second? Mr. Buno, all in favor? All right, motion passed.
The thing I would add to Emily's question is on the regular agenda this evening, there are listed the individuals who are appointed for these roles that are on the regular
Mhm.
agenda. So
Okay, perfect.
Thank you, Mr. Simon. Okay, and moving on, a resolution to approve the board member committee list for the 2024-2025 school year. I saw our new board members also signed up for some committee assignments. Is there any questions on this resolution? Do I have a motion to approve? Mrs. Steinbeck, is there a second? Mrs. Turner, and all in favor? All right, motion approved.
I just want to say I appreciate also the board members being willing to serve on the committee. It's really important. It gives the board members an opportunity to interact with us and with the staff on various topics. We put together this booklet a few years ago and we just updated it. So it has all of the committees, the goals of the committee, representation on the committee, and tentative dates. Sometimes the dates change, but we try to keep it consistent
Mhm.
so that if you look at your calendars, you know that, if you're on a particular committee, it's generally going to meet at a certain time on a certain day of the month. If you want to change at any point, your committee, just let us know. We can evaluate that. We try to keep no more than 3 or 4 board members on a committee
Yeah.
because or else you have a quorum of 5 and you have to operate your committee meetings like a board meeting. I prefer to have more of an exchange, collaboration. So.
Thank you, Mr. Simon. I also wanted to,
Oh, I was just gonna ask, there's 2 TBDs for the liaisons. Is that because no one was interested in those roles or, okay. So I would encourage if folks could look at that and think about maybe if you can see yourself doing that. It would be nice to have them for those roles.
I would, I'll be liaison to athletics. I'd love to do that. I think we wanted to clarify liaison roles.
I started to look at, I actually started to look at that.
I'd be glad to do that.
If school boards had anything around the role of liaison, they did. I was working with AI as well to come up with a
Mhm.
description, and I'll be sending a draft description for a liaison, board liaison out to everybody. I just haven't finished it yet. I didn't like what AI came up with, so.
I think it'd be good to have those roles
Yes.
defined, and then if anybody wants to do transportation, once we figure out what that actually means.
Mrs. Taylor, and prior to Mrs. Taylor, Mrs. Massey was on the board who was liaison to the transportation department. So we will need that role.
Okay.
Interested?
Let me settle into my job and everything else first and then, you know.
I mean, if nobody's interested, I'll call. Okay, so it doesn't go on film, I'll step in.
Awesome.
Do
Thank
that.
you.
Good.
I also just wanted to add just quickly that one of the best ways to get the work done of the district is through the committees. That's where a lot of the experts kind of join together and kind of go through the policy issues, especially some of the larger issues, and kind of disseminate how to, yeah, awesome. So moving on I need a motion to adjourn our organizational meeting. Mr. Buno and a second, Mrs. Komersky, and all in favor? All right, motion adjourned.
First meeting under your belt.
Try to make the second one the best.
Response letter.
So, moving on to our regularly scheduled meeting. Let's see here. All right, so I'm gonna call to order our regular meeting session, and we already did the roll call and pledge of allegiance. If everyone's okay, I'm gonna skip those portions of the meeting and moving on to the approval of the draft minutes. So our new board members won't be voting on this one, being that they were not present at that meeting. So we do have a quorum here. So do I have a motion to Mr. Mann approved and Ms. Steinbeck for the second, and all in favor of approving the draft minutes? All right, excellent. And the motion approved. Everyone was.
I think you just got to note the abstentions.
Okay, any abstentions?
So it would be the three.
Yep. Excellent. Okay, 3 abstentions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
Okay, and starting with the board forum, I'm gonna start on my left here with Miss Van Orton.
Thank you. I just want to say I'm excited to be here. Thank you to everyone for the warm welcome, and I'm looking forward to getting started.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm all set.
Thank you.
Okay, and I just want to also just send a welcome to our 3 new board members, and I just want to thank everyone again, and Mr. Stiles and Mrs. Mulligan and everyone for all of the support. But no, I'm glad to be here, and if you just bear with me through these hiccups, I know it's a little painstakingly slow. I appreciate it, but but thank you.
You beat, your time. Technically it was 7.
We're all very happy with you right now.
Here we go.
So, Mrs. Turner.
I just want to reiterate what Kat said. I'm happy to be here. I'm ready to dig in. Thank you.
Just congratulations. I did not make it to the graduation this year, but from everything I heard, it was a great ceremony. A lot of praise from, community members and family members were really pleased. So congratulations to the graduates, and some tears, I'm sure. I've been there.
There's pictures of me and I look really painful.
Awesome. Thank you. So, right.
I just wanted to say thanks for welcoming us, and thanks for support and getting us onboarded. I really appreciate all of that.
I just want to say welcome to the new board members, and thank Mike and Mark for their leadership while coming onto the board, and looking forward to working with Jesse as vice president.
Thank you. Moving on to our public forum. I'm gonna read this snippet here. Residents, students, employees, and business representatives are welcome to our public forum of the East Greenbush Central School District and may address the board on matters concerning programs and/or operations of the district, other than matters involving personnel. Members of the board do not directly respond to citizen concerns during the public forum. If a response is appropriate, either the president or superintendent will contact the individual in the near future. Those persons wishing to address the board will be recognized by the chair of the meeting and should state for the record their name and address or affiliation with the district or business. While the board does not wish to infringe upon free speech protections, it must be stressed that the visitors forum is not deemed to be an open forum. The board president will conduct the forum for the orderly and efficient operation of board business. In addition, any remarks which may be considered defamatory or stigmatizing or are prohibited and will be declared out of order. All comments shall be limited to 5 minutes. Is there anyone who would like to address the board? All right. All right, thank you. Moving on to reports and presentations by Mr. Simons.
Thank you, Mr. Temple. We have been working on the planning for the capital project that was approved in May by the voters. There is a document posted on here that I'm going to ask Mr. Goodwin to enlarge as much as he can because it is kind of small print. We're putting together with our team, which represents myself, Jennifer Mulligan, Paul Bickle, our Director of Facilities, as well as our architect, Labella Associates. They have a lead architect, but also specialist architects, including experts on landscape architecture, working with us, as well as Turner Construction. And we formed a steering group. We met about a week and a half ago or so. Jesse, Mike Buno, and Mark Mann have agreed to be part of the board representation for the steering group to kind of provide some board perspective on the planning of the project. So across the top of this document, you see various headings. There's the phasing, which I'll talk about a little bit. There's the scope of work that's been identified to occur in each of the phases. There's a budget total. Then there's really two phases to the architectural design. There's a more general schematic design, and then there's actual specific design with the specifications that the State Education Department requires. State Ed reviews both architectural plans as well as mechanical and electrical plans. So there's a lot of time involved in developing those documents. To the point, then you have construction documents that are able to be provided to the contractors. They all need to be approved by the State Education Department. Currently, the timeline for state education approval is 26 to 28 weeks, so that can be as much as 7 months. The state is considering going back to something that they started a few years ago called third-party review, where they hire an outside firm, architectural and engineering firm, on contract with the State Education Department to review those. So we made a little footnote that should that become available, and if it looks as though that would expedite our reviews, we would consider the third-party review. It may cost a little bit more, but it may be worth it to get the project approved and going. And then we go out to bid. Typically, there's about a 4-week period in which the bids are issued, and then we receive the bids into the district, and then we start the construction schedule. So some of the factors have gone into why we picked certain projects and certain buildings to go first involve aid. We had talked about in the presentations to the public the maximum cost allowance. That is an amount of aid that is assigned to a particular building. Some buildings have larger maximum cost allowance, and some have more that will become available if we wait a little bit in the project, because there's a 5-year rolling cycle. So every 5 years, there's a new authorization of the maximum. So Columbia High School roof and the basketball courts and the tennis courts were chosen to go first, in part because of the aid assigned to the high school. It's a much larger building, its enrollment is larger, and so it has a better aid factor. But also the design of a roof project is a lot simpler and quicker than it would be some of the other work that we're planning. So it has a shorter time period for our architects to design. And as you can see from the timeline, we would like to get those documents submitted to SED by the end of this month. So they're working on that now, on the roof design, as well as the design for the basketball courts and the tennis courts. So for those reasons, we chose to go with phase 1A being Columbia High School roof, Columbia basketball court, and tennis courts. Secondly, because of its visibility, and also it was a very popular aspect of the project, was the golf athletic fields. That will come in phase 1B. They're currently working on that design simultaneously with phase 1A. State Education Department requires you to do some work in the building itself in order to get aid on the outside of the building. So the elevator replacement has been identified as some of the work that will occur in the building as the work on the fields is occurring outside. I think we anticipate doing the work in the back of the building first, for example, the turf, the track, replacement grass fields, the baseball, doing that first, and then later on, we'll be doing the front of the building. As the back of the building could become, we can free the back of the building up to be accessible to the contractors, whereas we'll need to, we can't do it both at the same time, really, in terms of bringing students and visitors and staff onto the campus. That work at Goff, if everything goes according to this schedule, would hopefully be submitted to SED by late fall in November. Okay, that requires a more extensive design. And if everything is approved within the estimated timelines, we would start the work at Goff in the, if I can read it, bear with me, in August of 2025, in the summer of 2025, so a year from now.
I think more in the fall.
No,
Okay.
it's
Yeah, the
October.
fall.
Moving into the fall, okay. So, there are a lot of considerations regarding this, and then we have the second part of Goff, which would also involve the front of the building work on the outside, but also the entrance addition, the new entrance design. And then we would also be starting at the same time Green Meadow. Where you see the elementary schools identified, it's the full scope work starting in that building, such as the replacement of the heating and ventilation system, the air conditioning, the associated asbestos abatement involved in those projects. Green Meadow, I skipped over Red Mill, excuse me. Goff Library and Red Mill would be phase 2. We've been working with the building principals of Red Mill and Goff to make sure that we can take the Library Media Center offline during the school year while we're doing that work. Both buildings have the option to do that, and the contractors can enter those spaces from the outside of the building. Obviously, there'll be barriers and safety and noise arrangements made to not impact instruction. Red Mill and Green Meadow, for example, were earlier on in the last project, in the 2017 project. So that maximum cost allowance becomes fully available to those buildings. And that's why they're going first. The fourth phase would be the interior work at Columbia High School, the buildings and grounds and the transportation department. And then phase 5 would be Belltop with currently proposed additions at Belltop and DPS. And we're able to rework some of the space at Janae to create additional classrooms. So all in all, we haven't had approval of the State Education Department for the additions yet, but we were looking at somewhere between 4 and 6 additional classrooms, trying to get 2 on DPS and 2 on Belltop, and 3 to 4 at Janae with the existing space, but we don't have approval from SED yet, so we don't know whether that would be finalized. It made sense to us because Belltop and DPS are schools that are on the outside of the district. They're also the smaller buildings that we would probably get support from SED to put the additions on those buildings, and down the road, should enrollment change and we needed to change things in terms of where kids go to school, we're not proposing that right now. Having those buildings be a little bit larger to accommodate more children made sense in terms of a long-range plan. Janae, with its once being a high school and once it was a 5-6 building, there's a lot of unutilized space or underutilized space that we can convert to classrooms and then shift some things around. So the costs on here are estimated by phase. We have to work with our fiscal advisor to make sure that all of that borrowing can occur at once, because this is a pretty aggressive schedule. But and we're I think Jennifer is
Next week.
having some meetings next week to just make sure that this level of work all occurring during this period of time, we're able to do the borrowing necessary to fund the contractors. Questions?
I'm super excited that
the middle school is up there in the priority list. I mean, that's been in terms of ranking in the calendar, but air conditioning. So let's talk about that. So air conditioning in elementary schools, I'm assuming if we're looking at this, Belltop and DPS will be the last ones to get it.
Yes.
I think it's important that we just communicate the reason why we did it that way to the public, because I do feel that they're gonna think, hey, Green Meadow got it earlier, why aren't we getting it? And it is based on the aid, so just, you know, a
Right.
point that we probably wanna make sure we're communicating or we're utilizing the aid as much as possible.
It is solely based on the timing of when that reset occurs,
Yep.
of the maximum cost allowance.
Absolutely makes sense.
And
We
the
just
fact
need
that-
to communicate that, I think.
Yeah, I agree, because there's a 2-year lag between Red Mill and the last elementary school, so.
That's right.
The other part to the schedule is the assignment of construction management staff. And there's a second document on here where Turner is working with us as we start to get to state ed approval and coming out of state ed approval, where you see that from this graph, we're gonna have a lot of work going on at the same time in multiple buildings, and we're gonna have on-site support from Turner Construction to make sure that everything is being coordinated
Yeah, I saw that.
very well. So there'll be overlap. It's not as though we're waiting for one building to finish or one aspect of the
great.
project to finish before we're moving on to the next. There'll be overlap, so there'll be multiple people from Turner in the district.
Is that just an example then that's up
Yeah,
there?
I mean, this is
Because
not even our
that's
school
us.
district. It says Canastota Central School District,
Oh.
2023.
Oops.
I mean, I hope Turner's, we're paying Turner like some good money and hopefully they can get our district.
I believe that the content of the graph is correct for us.
Okay.
It's the title of the
Yeah,
graph.
It had our schools below. so, yeah.
Huh?
None of us
It has the
noticed that.
schools, so I'm assuming it's
Right.
ours.
Yeah, they
So the
just
verb-
changed the.
This
district
is
at the
correct.
top.
Get Turner.
Because James Thomas is working
Very
with us,
low.
Mike Collins. I didn't notice the difference.
No, I.
All right, we'll make a correction to the minutes. Thanks for pointing it out.
Just want to make sure Turner's.
At the right
school.
district.
Right school, wrong heading.
Right.
I think they took an existing document, they plugged in our schedule, and they forgot to change the title.
They can send the bills to their district.
We have-
Or we'll know when our stuff's not getting done, we're getting bills. We're getting
Good
bills.
catch, good catch. But
I-
that, this is
yeah.
just to give you the idea that that they're coordinating the assignment of project supervision, and that we'll have a lot of work going on.
Can I ask a question on the athletics for the high school? The basketball courts and tennis, did that go over a time when they're in season? Like, are they in season play during the construction of
There
that?
will be a need to reschedule some sports programs
Mm,
during the time that the construction is occurring. Mr. Jones is involved in knowing this and anticipating when that's going to happen. There are options that would be available to utilize different sites for practice fields. There also is the option to not have home games in a particular season because we just don't have the fields available, and it's all to be determined. But
I think
Yes.
another thing I want to reiterate and go back to the messaging around that, especially for seniors, their senior home, like, their senior game or whatever, you expect to be at your home field and this and that. So if we could just be mindful of, how we're messaging that to the community and well in advance, I think that might go a long way, and some families will feel,
I think that's important. And I also the decision was made that you could do, the time frame required to do the tennis courts and to do the basketball courts was not as extensive. And to get that work done before you start over, potentially over a summer to do the access road last,
right.
to replace the access road last,
Yeah.
work on the properties that are on the school site first, and then do the access road last.
Yeah.
No, the basketball courts are only the outside ones, that we
Right.
use for rec.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
games on
Yeah.
I think it's the tennis,
It's just
right?
the
Just
tennis, yeah.
season, so just make sure we're communicating with the families.
Absolutely. Very good. And we'll get the heading corrected, Mark.
And maybe the bottom two were, I don't think we have a colonial village,
Oh, Mark.
Pay these guys a lot of money to do this.
It was really
Can't even
tiny when
see
it
it.
was printed. We were looking at an 11 by 17. It was like still.
We'll correct it.
Jeff, as they roll these out and they're doing or starting multiple things in multiple schools, who's Turner's like initial point of contact on site? Is it the building principal? Is it Paul Bickle?
It would be Paul Bickle.
Okay. Even as they're at these different
Yes.
buildings, he'll be there in immediate check-in person.
Yes, and James Thomas is the generally the man on the ground,
Okay.
working with the project on site. He worked on the playground here.
Okay.
At Genade to get that done, but they generally be Paul Bickle coordinating. He'll have to coordinate with head custodians, have to coordinate with the athletic director, have to coordinate with outside groups. That'd be another impact. There may be some spaces that aren't available for outside groups during the time of construction.
And as we get closer, I'd love to hear a more formal plan of communication, like, you know, a monthly update. This is exciting for the citizens.
There are detailed minutes of all of our meetings that we've had that are when we're at a technical level, but there's also, once we get into the project, there'll be kind of a general summary.
Well, I think you
work
should do
and-
some videos, dude. I
And
think-
Mark
Yeah.
Adam now has some
Social
help from
media.
Questar, with some video expertise, so we'll definitely be doing an update.
Yeah,
I think
people
it's
love to
great.
see before and afters.
Yeah.
Right. The video idea is fun. You get to go out there and, you know, kind of show it around, or you could work through and Paul could do some and, you know.
Mhm.
yeah.
Didn't part of the conversation though with Turner and Labella include the pre-referendum work and communications and graphics and things like that? Wasn't there kind of an ongoing component where they also support things we're
Yes.
talking about?
Yeah, basically what we have done and what we did in the capital project is they would send some information to Mark, and Mark would kind of,
Materials and resources.
Yeah.
Yeah, they must have a lot of this already, ready to just be tweaked.
I just wanted to add in terms of communication, because we did have to have those half days due to the heat this June. I know there was some frustration in the community about that, even though I felt like we were given as much notice as really possible. Because it's looking like some of this air conditioning won't be done for 4 or 5 years, I think it will also be essential to communicate why we need to wait, why that can't be done for next year. Because there is a possibility we'll have to make a similar decision again
right.
between now and when that air conditioning
Yeah.
is complete. And also, if we have some schools that have the air conditioning and some that don't, how will we be handling days like that in those instances?
I think that's a good point, and also, based on work that they've done in other districts, Turner believes that they can possibly get each building done in a summer, in terms of the number of classrooms that they've been able to do at another district. So it's the aid, but it's also the scope of the work is pretty complex in terms of asbestos abatement, which takes a long time. When you pull those unit ventilators out and the pipe is associated with them, you have an asbestos abatement project, so it does take time to do that. But,
Can I ask a clarifying question on the half days for the heat related? Did golf have the half day as well? And they have
Yes.
air conditioning. So, yeah, regardless of whether they had air conditioning or not, they had half days, right? Yeah.
yes. We weighed that, and there's some equity issues within the contracts that caused me to believe it would be best to have K-8. The high school wasn't in regular session, they were in Regents diploma, there was some,
Gotcha.
there's some, trying to make the schedule equitable.
Isn't
Elementary teachers and the middle school teachers.
Some of golf doesn't have it, right? Like middle school, some of it is, or it's not as good.
It doesn't work as
Yeah.
well in the
Is that what
gymnasium
it is?
and in the
Okay.
cafeteria,
Yeah, that's what
and
I
in some of the
thought.
larger spaces as it does in the classrooms.
Jim.
Is that on
Jim.
here?
So, yeah, improvement of that is part of the project.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Mr. Simon.
Good.
Moving on to the East Greenbush Central School District-wide Safety Plan with the town of East Greenbush, SRO agreement, and Rensselaer County Sheriff's Department SRO agreement.
So Jeff Tooker is here. He is a social studies teacher at Columbia High School, also our driver's ed instructor, and also our safety coordinator. We also have a service through Questar BOCES that provides safety and risk management services. Jeff and Lisa Lyons from Questar recently attended a training at the State Education Department is providing. there are new requirements for the district's safety plan, which you're being asked to approve this evening. Actually discuss this evening and approve within 30 days. The new requirements are based on the intent of the Board of Regents to ensure that school drills are trauma informed. For example, when we have a lockdown drill, some students and in some cases staff may become anxious or alarmed as a result of the drill. So there are additional requirements that have been put in place that you will see within the district safety plan to make sure that when we do the drills, there's certain things that we're obligated to do now that we weren't obligated to do last year. One of those is we have to make sure that all staff and all students, pre-K through 12, are trained in the safety plans before we can actually implement a drill. We've never had a requirement that we had to train students. This is a new requirement. We have always trained our staff. We've done some things informally with students. So our team met, our administrative team met, and we reviewed these requirements, and we determined that in terms of the training of staff and students, we use a module currently provided by Questar BOCES for online training, that we are going to be distributing that online training soon, and staff will have until September 6th to complete that training. Additionally, we're working to develop a safety plan training for students. The requirement is that it be age appropriate and developmentally appropriate for children. So Mr. Stiles is coordinating a project. We're required to involve members of the school safety teams, which we have school safety teams in the developing of the training that have backgrounds in being trauma informed. So our school psychologists, for example, or our social workers, for example, along with some representatives from each building are going to work with Mr. Stiles to put together that training.
Sure. So as Mr. Simons has mentioned, we will be working with Mr. Tooker to give some staff members from each of our buildings an opportunity to come together this summer, work with Mr. Tooker on the safety plan, so that they have a good understanding of the safety plan, and then create, age appropriate, trauma informed, kind of a framework that then the buildings can utilize the best way they see fit. Columbia High School may be utilizing it for all students. They may be doing it during like a phys ed class where they maybe have a social worker or someone come into each phys ed class to make sure they're hitting every student. We're at an elementary school. They may do a K2 assembly with everyone, and then they may do a 3-5 assembly. So it'll be look a little different based on the needs of the school, but there will be a framework created by that team over the summer.
So we are not going to be starting our drills until after September 30th. Our goal is to have the training for the students completed by the end of the first month of school. Okay. The other thing that is a requirement is some schools, we haven't done this, they kind of try to front load their training and do them all in one day or 2 days, multiple trainings in a day. You're not allowed to do that. Multiple drills in a day. You're not allowed to do that. One per day, which makes sense to me. So, and all of these procedures are now required not only of lockdown drills, but of fire drills, of evacuation drills, shelter in place, all of the different types of emergency responses this applies to. We are also required to notify caregivers in advance of the drill. We do that now. We do it at least a day in advance. We determined that our standard is at our discretion. We're going to do it at least 2 days, minimum of 2 days in advance. We have to identify how we're going to do that. We're going to do that through Parent Square, which is a tool that everyone has become familiar with and likes to use. We are required to make sure that there is an announcement at the beginning of the drills that it is in fact a drill and not an actual emergency. So the principals will be going on the public address system to do that. And sometimes it's comforting to hear the principal's voice. We're not going to change the message on the automated but the principals will be doing that
Mhm.
through the PA system. We're also required to have bus driver and monitor representation on our building level planning teams. We have a district team that has our transportation supervisor and assistant transportation supervisor on it. We're both bus drivers, but the building teams now have to have a bus driver on it. So how do you do that with multiple buses? I asked the principals to select someone who has a lot of experience working with that particular school to be on their building level safety planning team. We're going to provide a script for our social workers and psychologists and teachers and staff to do, you have to do a post-drill facilitation or debrief. And I know we've had some concerns within the district regarding consistency of what's done, what's said to students. So I think this is a good thing. We're going to be working with school psychologists and social workers on, well, what do you say to the kids afterwards? How do you facilitate discussion of how it went, how they felt about it? To make sure that's being done consistently, but also age appropriately. And we have never done these kinds of simulations that are out now. You can't do them. In other words, there are some schools that have used students as actors, adults as actors, and had replicas of weapons and blood and those kinds of things. We've never done that. We don't do that. You're not permitted to do that. And particularly during school hours. We do let the police department use our facility during vacations to plan their drills in terms of how they would respond to an active shooter. That's not covered under this. This is something that is still permissible. I think it's a good thing to do. So they become familiar with our buildings. So all in all, these are requirements to make sure that we are executing these drills in a way that is trauma informed and communicating more, both before, during, and after the event. And Mr. Tucker, anything to add?
No. The entire thing. It's a lot. There's more coming for next year.
Right.
There's another whole list of other stuff.
Right.
The only question I have is, and Jeff as well, is that, hopefully, are we going to share this with the, local law enforcement agencies, sheriffs and the state police, because they do respond to the buildings. Some schools, I know Green Meadows, want to have the police present before the drill even takes effect, so that, the local agencies are aware of these changes and what can and cannot be done now.
So this gets posted tomorrow morning on the school district website with the comments for the parents. It's open up for 30 days. That link will be shared with Chief Radzinski and all her cohorts across Southern Rensselaer County, with a link saying, review the changes. If you want to meet, let me know. We'll come in and meet.
We usually have them come in for an initial meeting at the beginning of the year anyway, to talk through some of the issues around the implementation of safety plans. So we'll make sure we do that as well.
So they will know. I know they try to get around every school for every lockdown drill. That may prove daunting under these guidelines, but this is what we have to do. This is the new requirements came out of the.
Share the information, because we do deal with multiple different police agencies.
Yeah.
The way our schools are spread out to include, state police.
Yep.
And the sheriffs.
Sheriffs, they will be included in there.
Not just, we'll notify them
Yes.
separately than just posting it on
Yes.
our website.
Yes. Yep.
The SRO agreements are attached to this because it's required when you approve the safety plan to have the school resource officer agreements with the municipality attached to the safety plan. But these are still, they were already approved. So you're not approving the SRO agreements. They're still good for another school year. Both the sheriff's department and the East Greenbush Police Department's agreements are through 2025. You're just approving the safety plan. Well, you're kind of discussing the safety plan, putting it out for public comment. And when we receive the public comments, as I did last year, I will let you know what those public comments were and whether or not those comments, that we would recommend any changes to the plan based on those comments.
Did we get a lot of comments?
Last year, I believe you received several. In the years past, we got like none.
We received
but-
more last year because we had the swatting incidents.
Right.
Yes.
We had made some adjustments to things that people may not have been aware of that were recommendations in some of the public comments. So we were able to,
So we have 30 days as a board to approve it, or it gets posted for 30 days?
You're going to post it tomorrow morning. Mark Adam will post tomorrow morning, be pulled down August 12th. That's a Monday because the 9th is a Friday at your board meeting on the 21st of August.
Right.
You'll approve it. And then I believe the superintendent will report on any concerns or anything like that. And then you'll approve it and immediately goes on the website because I believe Mrs. Mulligan has to immediately log on to the NICEAD portal and get it uploaded by September 1st. So there's a very tight time frame with all of this. The district-wide plan is September 1st. The building plans are October 1st. So that's a simple upload. That one's the quick one. That takes 5 minutes. The other ones are the ones we have to get everybody back in school and the principals. The principals are going to get their building level plans by this coming Sunday to update. So they'll have until the middle of September. They'll have almost 2 months to make all their updates in there. So it's a daunting process every year.
Building level plans are not publicly discussed, nor required to be approved by the board. They contain information that could potentially put students and staff in peril, so we don't share those.
I know we're not approving the SRO agreements, but just your general observations on how is it going? I noticed too in the East Greenbush one, like how much do we pay for the SRO versus the Rensselaer County one is, I'm very transparent about that. And like, is it in the East Greenbush one, the SRO reports to the chief of police, and the Rensselaer County one, they report to you. And I just wonder if, like, from your observations, is that working well? Is that something that we should just be thinking about?
I think in both cases, the arrangement with the Sheriff's Department and East Greenbush Police are working very well. Deputy Sheriff Jay Ravel is at the middle school. He's got good relationships with the kids, as does Ed Ashley, who's the East Greenbush Police Officer. We do a lot of things in the classroom to educate kids regarding safety and prevention. Ed Ashley runs a drum club for kids at the high school, which has captured some interest, and the drum club has been competing. So a lot of it comes down to the selection of the officer. And a couple of years ago with Mark's advocacy, if they change officers, we have a right to sit and interview with the police department to select the officers. We've got 2 very child-centered SROs. The agreement has transitioned over time. We used to pay 50% of the cost, and the town paid 50% of the cost in the case of East Greenbush. We pay 100% of 10 months of salary and benefit costs. And then if we want an SRO for the summer, we make a separate arrangement. We are making a separate arrangement for summer school because we feel that some officer presence is needed during summer school. But in both cases, they're 100% of the 10-month salary and benefits. And the total cost depends on the officer that they have available that wants to do. So a more senior officer would be getting paid more and cost the district more than a more junior officer. But overall, I think it's a great relationship with both agencies.
Great. And just, I assume, is it pretty standard that it's kind of middle school age and above that have SROs and not at elementary schools? Or is that what you're kind of seeing from colleagues?
Pretty much, unless there's a consolidated campus where the SRO, if there's one campus and the SRO can be shared among a K-12, like a K-12 building. We have had parents come forward and express concerns about having SROs at the elementary school level. We studied it. We've been looking into it. We still are. We weren't able to fund it with 100% cost that we have to bear. But it's still a topic of discussion that's underway.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simon.
Thank you.
Moving on to the
Thank
board.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. I'm heading out. Have a good night.
Moving on to the board retreat discussion. The board retreat is an opportunity where board members get an opportunity to get to know each other better and kind of get an idea of where all our policy ideas come from, and make it easier to disseminate, ideas. Is there any?
So the word retreat is a little misleading. You're going to be right in this room. And so it's more of a board development session. I'd like to as a retreat. We'd like to, we typically either set goals at that meeting or we talk about board relationships, board superintendent, administrative relationships, identify some priority areas. it's always good to try to do it earlier before the school year gets rolling. So I ask people to check their calendars for, I'm not available the 23rd of August through the 30th, but any other time I'm available, or early September. And if, so I'll send out an email to have everybody check their calendars, and I'll propose some options for the dates. If you have dates that you'd like us to avoid, just send them to me. And then we'd like some input from a couple of board members to help craft the agenda for that. So looking for volunteers.
Volunteer.
I would love to volunteer.
Okay, so we'll have Jesse, it's everybody, Jennifer and Emily. Okay. So I'll reach out to you separately to set up a planning meeting. I can share, maybe we'll collect, if I'll ask board members if they want to have input into various topics for the retreat. And then the four of us can look at that together and try to put something together.
Yeah, we can maybe do a shared Google Doc or something like that. That'd be helpful.
Okay.
On topics of concern or questions. Now, top of mind for me is governance, given the fact that we have new board members, new leadership at the board level. I think it'd be helpful, work out some things there. And then, we're looking at, make sure we're sharing out all the goals in advance so we can have that to look at and review and refine if we want to do that. And any priorities that folks have, I think it'd be helpful to have Google Doc to share.
So I'll send out kind of a Google Doc to survey your interest in topics. I'll send out the current goals and the vision statements that the board has had in place. And then we'll get together and we'll take a look at some of the information, try to put together an agenda. It's typically, if we can start a little earlier, 2.5 hours. So of time, we try to do it on a time when you don't already have a board meeting that week.
You serve dinner.
And we serve food, yes.
We get that.
All right, very good. Thank you.
All right. And moving on to the NICEBA convention, October 20th, 2022. Reserve those dates. This year is going to be in New York City.
It's usually best in New York City. I think according to the feedback we've gotten from board members in the past. It usually isn't a Sunday through a Tuesday. It's usually starts on a Thursday with the pre-conference, and then it's you're done on a Saturday. So it's a little bit different calendar than years past. There's a pre-conference, there's a law conference typically that's offered. Board members are welcome to go to that, and that's a district's expense. So we'll send out some links to that. It's great when we all go together. It's good team building and good learning. And if you can free up your time, and it's well worth it. And the board members, veteran board members that are here who've gone to it, if you guys have anything you want to add, it's a good experience.
We want to try to get our lodging in the hotel with the conference.
I think.
And I know it opens and you got to be right there
Yeah,
as soon as
it's
it opens.
really difficult because you have to register. before
That's
you
what I'm
can
saying.
do
So I
it.
think we need names
So
sooner than later because, they'll pop that thing open in
When does it open? Do we know?
I think it's
July,
okay.
late July.
late July, beginning of
A little later
August.
than usual, yeah.
that's a good point, Mark. So if you want to go and you want to go now, give Gene your name.
Yeah.
If you want to think about it for a day or two, look at your schedules, your obligations to your family, all those kinds of things, and let Gene know within a couple of days by Friday. Because the sooner it's like getting tickets to the Britney Spears concert.
Britney Spears, you really just aged yourself.
Not Britney Spears, what's the other one?
Oh my
Taylor
gosh.
Swift, excuse me. Not Britney Spears. I did-
You
my
probably
daughter's
can
been
get
filming
tickets to Brittany.
Taylor Swift.
Let's just recruit a senior to do it. Then they'll know how to log in. And
Right.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
We can get one of the help desk people.
no pressure.
It like shut down. I
Yeah.
had 3
Yeah,
people
crashes.
on. Everybody, we were all like
We need to
screaming
get
across the
4
room.
because-
Yeah.
Moving on to the
I think it's only one hotel
We
this
get
year.
this one. We were in Spookyville last year.
I think
What, New York
I heard
area?
it's
It's only
all
one
one
hotel.
hotel this year,
Yeah,
no
I
matter
think it
what.
Which is
It's big
great, but I will tell you, it gets packed in there and then we have no seats either. That's the other challenge that we had. I
Do you
think
know
New York
if
City
this
was
is
the
the
big one,
Hilton
wasn't it? It
on
was
Sixth
tight.
Avenue?
It's not
Remember what
where we
time it
normally
is.
have it in New York City this
Like
year.
a
It's at
Marriott
another
Marquis,
hotel, right?
like
Hopefully
one of
bigger.
those.
I think,
Yeah.
Hotels
I
are
mean, the
really tough
spooky
in the
hotel
city
last
right
year
now.
was nice,
Yeah, it was spooky.
but,
Yeah.
It was a hotel that was converted from a former psychiatric,
yeah.
residential psychiatric center.
But-
That marketed it that way.
There was nice
Maybe.
multi-facilities.
at least the noises ain't that
In the middle of the night.
That's so cool.
All right, moving on to the superintendent's evaluation timeline and process. Let's see here. So for this one, Mr. Simons, I think you provide the timeline that's here. And I'm gonna work with you on pulling all the materials together and presenting it to the board to go over. And this is something that we complete every year, right? It's an annual evaluation. Is part of this like also setting goals for the upcoming year, or is it just about the past year's performance?
Once the evaluation is complete and the board discuss it, at times it has been some information that was included within the evaluation that informed the goals for the following year. New board members don't have to do this and aren't actually permitted to do this for last year because you weren't on the board. But any board members that are here now and that were here last year complete the evaluation for the 23-24 school year. It starts with a self-evaluation that I have to do based on the New York State School Board's standards of performance for a superintendent, and I have to provide evidence and artifacts attached to each of the standards in a narrative. I started that process. It's pretty extensive. I hope to get it done by July 19th. And then the board president, through an electronic portal, which is called Super Eval, releases I release the self-evaluation to you, and then there's a time period where you go through and you look at what I put in there and whether you agree with it or disagree with it, and you add any comments. And then once that process is completed, there's automation associated with compiling it. So we'll have to make sure everybody has an account, which I think Stephanie has done, and a user ID and a password. So I checked with her the other day, and I think that's all set. If you didn't receive anything from Super Eval or Stephanie, let us know. It's usually an opportunity for my own growth and also for the superintendent and the board to agree on priorities within the district. It's been very effective. And we've been doing the Super Eval, I think, for 7 years, and we've used the New York State School Boards Association standard since 2016.
Thank you, Mr. Simon. All right, moving on to regular business. This is approval of programs for resident children with disabilities. Are there any questions on this motion? Do I have a motion to approve this? Mrs. Commercy and the second, Mrs. O'Brien. All in favor? Excellent. Everyone's in favor. Motion approved. Moving on to the mentor facilitator agreement. This is resolved. Let's see. And Mr. Simon, could you just?
I'm gonna let Mr. Stiles, who oversees the mentor program, talk about what this is.
Sure. So this is a 3-year agreement to work with Melissa Gilligan, who the district has been working with to continue to be our mentor coordinator for our teachers, new teachers that need mentors. That is a requirement with the New York State Education Department. Again, Ms. Gilligan is retired East Greenbush teacher and has been doing this for several years. She had a 3-year contract prior that is just expired, and we would like to renew that.
So she's kind of overseeing the mentor. She's not mentoring every new teacher.
Correct. She is not mentoring. She is the mentor coordinator, facilitator. So she oversees the mentor program, making sure everyone is getting their appropriate hours. She, sets up meetings and different sessions and conferences with the mentors and mentees.
And this is for all new hires, correct?
All new hires that need mentors. So if you
Okay.
were, and correct me if I'm wrong, Marissa, so if you were a teacher from a prior district, you have 5 or 6 years experience, you're not required to have a mentor
Okay, that's what I was
for New York
wondering.
State, so you would not be part of that program.
Okay.
So a question then comes up is, do we consider mentors for even veteran teachers who are new to the district? Marissa?
That's what I was, yeah.
We
Is it
historically
voluntary?
have not.
Is there a reason why? Number of mentors? I think we should look into it because there's a lot of, when you look at the agendas for the last few years, you've seen a lot of people coming to the district
Mhm.
who are certified and don't need that mandatory
Right.
1-year mentorship for their certification. And I think it's a good practice to at least have some kind of, maybe not be the full program, but some kind of mentor to maybe meet with them, less frequently, but also to acclimate them to the district.
I think that we
Mr.
can
Stiles
talk about
and I
that
can-
to see how that would fit in. Like you
That's what
said,
I was
it
gonna
might
say,
not be
mentor one.
appropriate, might not be appropriate for them to participate in the
Right.
full mentor program because they clearly have done that in a prior district.
Right.
But I think it is worthwhile to come up with.
Yeah,
Some
something.
introduction
Yeah, just a
process.
couple
Yeah,
of
our-
sessions,
Yeah, I think
because
so.
we know the culture of every district is different and all of the policies and that sort of thing, I think would benefit people.
Yeah, it's more about district procedures and processes and things like that.
Yeah.
We can look at that.
Yeah,
I think that's good. Very good
Do you know, after the end of each year, and I know that they received their certificates and we got like a glimpse into the program, at the end of the year. Do they, I didn't hear any sort of like evaluation. Do they do like a summary or ask how to improve the program? And do we take any of that into account or
I'll
are we
have to look
making
at-
any changes this year?
We have made changes, we do make adjustments. Ms. Gilligan really tries to look at the needs of the new mentors and mentees to see what the needs are when she's planning for the upcoming year. So it's not just like a cookie cutter program that she does. She is trying to meet the needs of all the different groups coming in. So I can speak to her a little bit more about her process of how she's selecting, the program
Yeah.
each year.
Why don't we invite her to a presentation? Brief, 5-10 minutes, just to give us an overview.
Yeah,
That'd be
You
good.
know,
I wouldn't mind hearing about it.
All right. Moving on to
So
committee.
do we approve this?
Do we-
No.
Yeah, we have to approve it.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
All right, is there a motion to, Mr. Buno, is there a second? Ms. Turner, is all in favor? All right, everyone's in favor. Motion approved.
Did we approve 8A, Gene? The PBS, did we
Yeah.
do that?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, great.
All right, and moving on to committee reports, Marissa, Mrs. Cannon, I'm sorry, Mrs. Cannon, do you have anything?
Thank you,
Yes.
Mr. Temple. I did provide a staffing report. Does anyone have any questions?
I was looking it over, how are you doing in terms of responses for the AP position at Gob? I know it's open for a few more weeks. Are you getting decent responses or?
So it was just reposted on the 3rd. So we'll go in and check closer to when it's
Okay.
closing, just because there was the holiday weekend.
True.
So
Yeah.
I can do we certainly provide yeah. an update on the August 7th meeting. I would also love, I know we've talked about it before about where we're like putting it on or publicizing or advertising, I guess would be the word. And I just want to revisit that or hope you guys are thinking about that and how we're, looking to cast a wider net, I think. And hopefully we've done that in this. I think this is one of the roles where that's important.
We did have a number of applicants in the first posting. I think we interviewed as many as 16 people. And for various reasons, I like to have 3 finalists, 2 to 3 finalists. And 2 of the finalists recommended by the initial committee accepted positions elsewhere. Another had a reference that did not support the candidacy. So I was only left with 1 candidate that was an alternate. Like you said, and I wasn't happy with that, only having 1 choice. I made the decision to repost the position. It gives just a set of circumstances. I think the committee handled the process really well. It's just they weren't comfortable. There were 4 that they were comfortable moving forward, and 3 out of the 4 well, 2 out of the 4 declined because they'd accepted another position, other references didn't materialize.